Hi, Kat Livingston again, dietitian. So we should talk about digestion and absorption. All of my patients, I always want them to have a really thorough understanding of what goes on when they eat, whether they're in the hospital or not in the hospital. I think it's really important. There's a lot of things that we've all heard, throughout our lives of, don't skip breakfast, eat 5-6 times a day, but do we truly understand why? So, I think it's really funny. My lamp is saying hello there. So, okay. So, there are 3 macronutrients that we need in abundance. Our bodies need this. We need protein, carbs, and fat. Micronutrients would be vitamins and minerals, which we need small amounts of, okay? So this is a illustration from a textbook that I really liked, very much a dietitian one. So here we can see, here's some protein. So protein starts getting broken down a little bit in the stomach. The enzymes, our saliva, start breaking food down right here in our mouth, but where all the action is really in your intestines. So our 3 energy sources are macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat. Protein, your body uses that. Your body uses it for building everything, your hair, your skin, your nails, your bones, your red blood cells. And whenever we're in an inflammatory state like illness or even just aging, obesity, all of those things actually require extra protein to help reduce it. If we have CHF, cardiac issues, vascular issues, fluid retention, things like that, the additional protein can really help our bodies with the exchange of those fluids. So, carbohydrates, when you eat carbohydrates, your pancreas makes insulin. And insulin's job is to transport the glucose being broken down from those carbohydrates to get into the cell to get used for energy. However, as we age, and if we are skipping meals, not eating breakfast, eating too many carbs, which most people do, not eating adequate fruits and vegetables, filling up on those, eating a high fat and carb meal and taking what I like to call a carb coma, after Thanksgiving. Oh, let's just go lay down. That's partly tryptophan too, but you know what I'm talking about, like that pasta, that chicken Alfredo. Oh, yum. And just, all of those things tend to give us insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is when insulin goes to a cell and tries to bind on it. A lot of our body functions are like a lock and key. It tries to bind onto the cell, but it can't because there's no receptor. And so what happens is the pancreas overcompensates and it makes extra insulin. And that insulin, it's intended to flood the channel, to get in there. Problem is that insulin does one of 2 different functions. Insulin is a storage or transport hormone. So when we have extra insulin floating around and it's not getting used to get into the cell, it creates storage. And guess where it creates storage? That's your belly fat. If you have significant belly fat, you have insulin resistance. So, and that gets worse over time. That's the 5-pound creep, 5 to 10 pound creep a year that people see, because when insulin makes that cell, it's not a true complete cell. That's why it can't bind on it. So it just gets worse and kind of snowballs. There's a few ways that we can fight that. One of the ways is by making sure that when we are having grains, that they are whole grains. I don't recommend my patients to have refined grains. Every once in a while, sure, of course, everything in moderation, including moderation. But what I want you to really understand and patients to truly understand is that what we're trying to do when we're trying to lose weight, when we're trying to control our blood sugars, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to control that insulin response. The more, like, that's the difference between brown rice and white rice. White rice is going to make blood sugars really high and create a lot of insulin because there's no fiber to really slow down how it goes through you. I like to use Steel Magnolia's Julia Roberts example this. Okay, so she's a diabetic, right? She's crashing. Mother gives her orange juice, really fast-acting sugar. Her blood sugars are going to go up, but there's nothing to slow down how fast that goes through her. There's no fiber to slow that down. So she's going to go up, but then her blood sugars are going to crash, okay? Maybe give her some almonds, give her something that's going to stay with her for a little bit longer. You got that fiber and everything. But think about if we just gave, I mean, that obviously a situation where we're not going to give her a whole orange and wait for that to take effect. But if you have the difference between orange juice, even though it's 100% natural, I don't recommend that my patients drink juice. Every once in a while, sure. On a regular basis, no way, Jose. It's going to raise blood sugar super high. If you have a whole orange, blood sugars are going to go up, but they're going to slowly taper because that fiber, okay? So that fiber is super vitally important at keeping your blood sugars lower, for not making a whole bunch of insulin. We don't want your pancreas working harder than it has to. Your pancreas is so important. It makes all of the enzymes for breaking down all of your food. When people start having issues telling me that they're having gas and bloating, they're not breaking things down, that's because their pancreas isn't working so good. Usually. Depends. Kind of complicated, but that can be a big part of it. If they are diabetic, their pancreas isn't going to be working as well. You don't want to mess with the pancreas. It is really, really important. When people have pancreatitis, oh, it's awful. You have cyclical nausea and vomiting. Even drinking water can cause excruciating pain. Less than 10% of pancreatic transplants are successful. You don't mess with the pancreas. You just really, really don't want to do that. So you really want to be kind to your pancreas. Vegetables do not raise blood sugars hardly at all. They've got lots of fiber. Now, fruits, vegetables, legumes, grains, beans, nuts, so many different things out there have fiber, and we have insoluble fiber and we have soluble fiber. Let's talk about that for a second. This insoluble fiber right here is really important. That's what's helping, well, all of the fibers helping keep your blood sugars lower, but you also need that to help push food through your intestines. When you don't get adequate fiber, that's when you start getting diverticulitis, GI issues, right? Because your intestines are a muscle. The only way you can work them out is really by getting a diet that's nice and high in fiber. So, and also just knowing that when you're having grains that aren't whole, it's not going to be a great thing for you. That doesn't mean that you can't ever have them. It just means that you really want to watch it. So even if you're going to have something, say you're having white rice, also still make sure you're having some really good vegetables in there. Fruits are wonderful too. But for my patients who are trying to lose weight, and for my diabetics, I say no more than 3 servings a day. You don't need more than 3 servings a day. And when I tell them that half of your intake needs to be fruits and vegetables, they don't go, oh, yummy, grilled zucchini. No, they're like, oh, I'll have fruit. Fruit has sugar. It's yummy. We love sugar, right? I had patients who swore to me, I'm not eating soda, I'm not drinking juice. And I'm like, how much fruits and vegetables are you having? Oh, half of my intake. Like this much vegetables and this much fruit. I had a patient gain weight because she literally ate a whole bag of grapes. Grapes are so high in sugar, and nowadays, because they're supersized, 1 grape equals 1 gram of sugar. Okay, so 15 grapes is 1 carb choice. That's 1 serving. A banana is 2 servings, so 1 medium piece of a fruit like an apple, peach. If it's a, halo, cuties, I'd say 1.5. I mean, it just depends. But the thing is that's really great is when you really increase the veggies, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, on how to do that to make it tasty, and so that you're like, oh, that actually is really good, it's satisfying. When you do that, you're not craving the sugar. So let's talk more about your macronutrients. Okay, so we talked a bit about carbs, and that fiber is super important for maintaining your blood sugar. So the last thing out of protein, carbs, and fat is fat. Now this is the principle of the keto diet and understanding fat burning. We're going to talk about that actually on a separate video, the importance of fat for your brain and for satiety and all that. But what I want you to understand is that fat is the last thing that gets absorbed. It is what stays with us the longest. It is what gives us our satisfaction at a meal. When you don't get enough fat, you're hungry an hour later. That's the Chinese food problem. When you don't get enough fat, you crave carbs. This didn't all like snap into place until I had this beautiful 83-year-old German woman come to me. It was her 3rd visit. And she was pissed off at me. She was so mad. And she came in, she said, I'm eating 6 times a day. I just ate 20 minutes ago and I'm hungry. My tummy is growling right now. Luckily, she had brought in her food diary. And I looked at it. Everything in there was non-fat or fat-free, non-fat or low-fat, non-fat, low-fat. All of the keto stuff, all of it started making sense. Like, oh my God, when you don't get enough fat, you're going to crave carbs because that's your fast, easy energy source. Of course it is. Of course. So for my patients, I usually put in their goals and recommendations in bold and in all caps. If you are craving sweets, go eat some fat. Go eat some nuts. Go eat some avocado. Go eat some sugar-free nut butter, peanut butter, nut butter. I don't care. Fat quiets ghrelin. Ghrelin is what I call it. That's my little mnemonic for that. Ghrelin is the hormone that makes your stomach growl, that makes you think that you're hungry. And it can lie to you. It can, it takes a few hours actually for your stomach to empty for most people. Your tummy can be growling, or you can have what I've heard referred to as air hunger right after you ate, like half an hour or 40 minutes after you ate, because you didn't get enough fat. And we're going to talk about the importance of fat for thinking well and your memory, and it's so important. So please stop being brainwashed to be fat starved. You need adequate fat, and when you don't get it, you're hungry. Okay, period. One of my biggest recommendations for everybody, period, if you are trying to lose weight or control your blood sugars, please have avocado about an hour to an hour and a half before bed. And I don't care how much you have. An entire cup of avocado has 1 gram of sugar and 10 grams of fiber. It's not going to mess with your pancreas. It's going to ask for some enzymes, sure, but it's not going to make your blood sugars go up. And because of that, your blood sugars are going to look gorgeous the next morning. But also, when you're doing that, an entire cup of avocado has 22 grams of healthy fat. It is not calories in and calories out when it comes to it. Have you ever heard of anybody getting fat from avocados? Nope. Watch the Rotten documentary on Netflix. Wow. Avocados are huge and they're so good for you. But anyway, what that does by having that high amount of fat by itself. Don't have it with anything else. Just take the avocado. I like to put mine, I like cut it into a grid and I put salt and pepper on it and we eat it with a spoon. Not on toast. If you can avoid having it with any other carbs, have it just as it is, because it's going to put you into fat burning while you're sleeping. You are going to lose weight while you sleep. Not even kidding you. Plus, the adequate fat helps you sleep better. Your morning blood sugars are going to be gorgeous, which over time, your HbA1c is going to be beautiful. I just had my third visit with a patient. The first visit, we talk about what they're doing, how can we plug in the recommendations. I give them a whole week of a Mediterranean. I give them 1-day sample menus. I give them a whole sheet of plate method, and they have one side filled out, and I help them fill out the other side if they need it. Lots and lots and lots of tools, right? So the second visit is coming back and how did we do? How are you doing? I had a patient who came back and, oh, I'm still craving whatever, popcorn, wanted to have popcorn in the evenings. You know, we also identify like, well, what are you craving? Is it something sweet, or is it salty, or is it crunchy, or what is it? We can possibly make some substitutions, or we could just have it at different times of the day to be more successful. So again, I put in recommendations, all caps, all bold. If you are craving carbs, go eat some nuts or avocado. Go eat some healthy fat. Third visit, that patient came. She lost 8.8 pounds and she didn't even realize it. And I'm like, what did you do? She's like, I just snacked on the avocado and the nuts like all the time. If I was having a craving, I just would have that, because nuts have fiber, fat, and protein. When I first started working with the Mediterranean and making recommendations, I didn't know if I could recommend all nuts or if I only had to recommend walnuts, almonds, and pecans, and I knew hazelnuts were high in monounsaturated fats. So I did more research and I looked to see, you know, what is the highest in the carbs? Well, cashews are highest in the carbs, and there's a mix at Costco that I really love that's unsalted, deluxe, extra fancy, deluxe mixed nuts. And it has pistachios, cashews, pecans, and almonds. And I usually actually add a little bit extra pecans because I don't think they have enough. They're super delicious. But anyway, I wanted to know, can I recommend that? Is the ratio of carbs going to be higher that I can't recommend that? No, I can recommend that. It's fine. I have a nice chart that I give to my patients that shows all the different, shows you every little part, the different vitamins and how much is monounsaturated and versus polyunsaturated, and how many grams of carbs versus protein and blah, 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 blah. They're all fantastic. I was most surprised with macadamia nuts because I thought, well, macadamia nuts are just so delicious and so sweet and so yummy. They are the highest in the calories. They are the highest in the fat, but guess what? They're also the highest in the monounsaturated fats. They're fantastic for you. So yes, nuts and seeds, go nuts. And yes, I am a granola girl in Oregon recommending all this. And I did even have a nut and seed like bar at my wedding, but they're so good for you. And I am the chick who has lost over 200 pounds and has kept it off for over 10 years. Okay. I follow the recommendations that I make. So I work with my patients doing a modified Mediterranean. The recommendations nowadays for the heart healthy, for the normal plate, for the diabetes plate, they're the same. Half of your intake, fruits and non-starchy vegetables. Most people don't cling to going, oh, I'm going to eat 2 to 3 cups of vegetables at lunch and 2 to 3 cups of vegetable at dinner. No, I do. Because I started following my recommendations and they felt so good. GI issues cleared up, my low calcium cleared up, protein absorption cleared up, all of these things started clearing up, and I was blown away. And then my patients came to me and they felt so good. I had another delightful patient on her third visit, and she only had like 10 pounds to lose, but she had some belly fat, wanted to just, be healthy. the third visit, she'd lost the 10 pounds and she came in and she's like, okay, why is this working? I feel fantastic. I'm not hungry at all. I feel wonderful. This is just fantastic. And I will say that my patients who follow the recommendations absolutely tell me the exact same thing. You feel so good. Those fat receptors are right there on your tongue, right? So you have all that yummy fat. Your brain loves it. So I need to make the next video on fat. Thank you.